I'm B. Wade. I'm a rapper and songwriter from Miami. I'm also a producer, an engineer, a videographer, and a photographer. My music journey really began as a kid. My dad was a songwriter. He did a lot of other things, but he was a songwriter for a large portion of his life and just loved to listen to music. So I sort of got that love of music from him. Over the years, I've picked up and played the piano, trumpet, guitar. I was in choir, and actually I was lucky enough that my high school actually had a program on like how to make electronic music with MIDI keyboards and Logic, which is Apple's DAW for making music. So all of those definitely had a large hand in sort of like my musical journey. When I got to college, I had the privilege of working with Jimmy Duvall, who we're still friends, but we've kind of, he's moved out to LA. We've gone our sort of different directions. But he did a lot of work with XXXTentacion and people like Johnny Oz and Stitches and a few other Miami artists that are, relative levels of poppin'. Through him and also through, the work that I was doing at the time, I was a songwriter at the company we had together. We got to work at like Po' Boy Studios and Circle House and Hit Factory, work with a lot of upcoming artists and like develop them. That kind of all led into 2 years ago when I decided that I wanted to sort of pivot from being just a producer and a songwriter and really get into my own music. I had been making music like myself for a very long time. I was just generally speaking, I was making reference tracks to sell to other people. I would love to, finish the songs, but if someone calls you up and wants to, pay you a couple $1,000s for the song, sometimes you just let it go. So yeah, 2 years ago, I opened up a home studio in my house, started engineering, all the sessions, all my friends really picking up on that. And I got the chance to work with some people like Gunplay. I got to work with Johnny Oz, someone who I also had worked with Jimmy, but on a more personal level. All my boys, Who is Golden, Lil Almighty, Cash on Deck, Fresco Bars, Jit, Hoosh. I got to work with many awesome artists, and really that takes me to where I am today. I would just probably say it was my dad. Like I said, he lived like a musical life. He was a songwriter. He wasn't necessarily a musician by trade his whole life, but he really loved music, and through him I saw the effect that like good music can have on other people in terms of, how it can change their mindset, really like impact them with a message, make them want to dance, have fun. The latter half of Mac Miller's career and like Drake and Kanye, as far as like really contemporary artists that I think sort of shaped not just like the landscape of sound that we live in, but also sort of like the landscape of sound on the more commercial side of what I'd like to do. People like Nas, Biggie, and Freddie Gibbs have always been like huge like lyrical innovators in my mind, and people that I've always like kind of chased as like the bar of like lyricism that I like to put in my more lyrical records. And then because I do produce most of my beats that I rap on, I'd say producer-wise, also another list that could be super long, but, people like Mike Dean, Metro Boomin, Nick Mira, The Alchemist. My music's kind of like two sides of one coin. On one side, I really like to make like really dark, like 808, auto-tune ballads. I don't like to go crazy on the tune, but I'd say something more like emotional, maybe not. The Weeknd is not maybe the right sound that I would say, but like the tone of his records are kind of similar to that, like very dark. And then the other side of it, I would definitely say that I like to make bouncy turn-up records. I think my music conveys a really complete image of like who I am, because like I have a really sort of split background. Like I grew up really nice. I have like a higher education degree. At the same time, I've done some, I don't want to say nefarious, but let's say less than legal things to pay the bills. And I have friends that kind of run the gambit in between. So I think my music kind of paints that duality in my life. It sort of has, a bit of not clean cut, but like there's a bit of like classic eloquence to it, but at the same time, it's got some hand tattoos and some drug deals in it to, just kind of dumb it down to a level I think is appropriate. I'm a very competitive person, whether it comes to like sports or cooking or anything. I always want to be the best at it. So I'd say an element of what inspires me to do music is like I really want to be excellent at it. I want to be remembered down the line as someone who made really, really good music, great albums, great songs that touched people and, gave them sort of perspective on life. I'm not really in it for like the fame and the money. I mean, I'm sure that that's a nice bonus, but if I can't be like known as an excellent or like tier 1 level musician by the time my career comes to a close, I don't think that I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I hope to bring to the music industry like a dose of reality to some degree. Not to say that, other people are fake or whatever and I'm somehow not fake or like, the most real person out there. But I think a lot of what goes on in the music industry is a bit contrived. I would say, honestly, what makes me different from other artists is that I've just had a very different sort of life. I'm not out here trying to proclaim that I've had the hardest life or something like that, but I've seen a fair amount of pain. I've been able to travel a lot of different places around the world. I grew up in a really nice background. Like I said, I have a higher education degree, but I also did some like less than savory things, and I have friends that have sort of run the gamut. And anyone who's been in the music industry a long time, I think that they would tell you that there's a lot of different types of artists out there, that there are people who are really successful with a silver spoon background, and there are people that, came from nothing and are really successful. And I think my life just kind of bridges that gap for a lot of people. I find that I'm often able to relate to all sorts of artists. Well, as of right now, I don't necessarily have a lot of music out that's like distinctly mine. My first project that I put out with like me, rapping and like being a prominent artist on it was in November of 2018. I released my first collab tape with my friend Fresco Bars. And then we're actually releasing the second tape in that collection on May 20th of 2020. And I've gotten the chance to executive produce 3 albums, as well as, a bunch of singles for other people. And I've also, I have a ton of my own music. I've released a few singles over the years. But really, like, as far as projects I've put out that I would say are uniquely me, like without a, a collaborator or something involved, I'm still just a few singles in. Right now, I'm executive producing 2 albums for my friend Jit. I have 3 albums of my own in the work that, span from being somewhat commercial to somewhat boom bap. Just sort of like different sides of my music that I've been compiling over the years and really trying to perfect. I've, got a lot of beats out for placement. There's a lot, man. Well, anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Leaf the Plug and IAA for giving me the experience, giving me the chance to give you guys a little bit of background on who I am and what I'm doing in the music industry, and, stay up. Appreciate you.